Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Agatha Walker, and I'm the Marketing Manager at InVMA, and I will be your hostess for the next 40 minutes. Before we begin, I would like to encourage you to type your questions into the question box on your control panel, so we'll be answering them at the end of the session. Also, we are recording this webinar, so the copy will be sent to you in a follow-up email. So every IoT presentation has a billion-dollar slide. So here is ours. The slide you're currently seeing, it represents IoT investment today. As you can see, the opportunity and the IoT market is huge. As of today, there are 20 billion connected devices, and that number is rapidly growing. With those devices, it comes tremendous upside opportunity for IoT investment. On the right-hand side, you can see that the investment is estimated to be as high as $1.6 trillion. This is from McKinsey study, and they estimated that the economic impact of just 9 settings will top 11 trillion by 2025. For comparison, this is between UK and US gross domestic product. And majority of those opportunities will come from enterprise sector. Therefore, in this webinar, we will explore how companies create value from smart connected products and what are the capabilities for your companies that your company will need to develop these products. So now is the time to introduce our speakers. One of our presenters is Donald Oleforo, Group Product Manager at GCE Healthcare. He's a marketing professional. He's got experience in implementing various brand communication strategies, customer marketing, customer retention, and growth strategies. He's particularly interested in new product development and innovation. He's got vast experience in managing product launches. Donald is a Six Sigma professional and delivers high-value projects using this methodology. We also have John Hill, Business Development Director at InVMA. He used to be an executive consultant and a program manager and engineer with a successful history of developing innovative business strategies and delivering large-scale IT-enabled change. John is now focused on using live data from connected devices to improve client profitability. So without further ado, John, is over to you.
Thanks very much, Agatha. So briefly, I just want to quickly introduce ourselves, InVMA. InVMA is for In-Vendor Managed Assets. We're your digital innovation partner. We really help businesses explore the threats and opportunities of the impact of this new digital technology of the Internet of Things and Industry 4.0, and indeed even augmented reality. Look at that digital technology and see what the impact is on the business, from products and services they provide through to the impact that it has on their internal processes. We help them find solutions to take advantage of the technology, and that's both on the product themselves, but also in the operations from manufacture through to the back office. We can do this because we're a systems integrator, value-added reseller, and been of ThingWorx for the last 5 years. And ThingWorx is the most complete industrial innovation platform on the market. Our background's in industrial automation. We've got a long history of control systems engineering in normally safety critical environments, from oil and gas to food production through to pharmaceuticals and the original equipment manufacturers that support those industries. We deliver a full range of services, from consulting around the opportunity right the way through to supplying, indeed integrating and supporting the solution. And we do this through our partner ecosystem. I'd like to introduce you now to Donald Oleforo, who is the manager from GCE, who's going to take you through GCE. Over to you, Donald.
Thank you very much, John, and good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick overview about our company, GCE. The company's headquarters is based in Sweden. We have multiple regional and manufacturing sites scattered across Europe, the US, and the Far East. We are a medium-sized organization with just over 100 million euros in annual turnover and 1,000 employees scattered across those multiple sites. Our business is fundamentally split into four business units. Cutting and welding, which is very much our heritage, where we've come from as a business. Central gas systems, valves, which you will typically see on cylinders in hospitals and in garages. And finally, the business unit where I work is the healthcare business, which for GCE is seen as a key area of strategic growth for our organization. Next slide, please. So today, what I'll be looking to explore with you guys is to try and talk through the value derived from connected devices. And the case, I'll be using Zeno, a portable oxygen concentrator, which we developed within GC as a case study for today's session. Zeno is as I said, a portable oxygen concentrator, which is used by patients that have COPD or respiratory diseases. It provides supplemental oxygen to enable them live an active lifestyle. It's a new product for us as a business, a real paradigm shift from what we've done previously as a business. And connected technology will help us differentiate our product offering in the market, which I will hopefully try and explain how in subsequent slides. Next slide, please. I guess to paint a picture, I'd like to share with the group what the ecosystem or the structure looks like for us playing within the healthcare industry. We have the healthcare insurance organizations or government bodies. In the UK, for example, would be the NHS, or a government-funded or privately funded health insurance program that patients will subscribe to. Clinicians who look after these patients with COPD, service providers or distributors who are our direct customers, and us as a manufacturer as well as other manufacturers of portable oxygen concentrator. And finally, the patient. The patient sits at the center of this structure. We're all in business to look after the patient. And I'll try and talk through the value of connected technology to different groups in this picture. I will start off with the patient. For patients, the portable oxygen concentrator, the idea is to help them live an improved quality of life. It's a replacement, a solid replacement for traditional methods of delivering oxygen therapy, which include oxygen cylinders. Some of you may have seen people pulling these bulky metal cylinders, patients pulling this along. And portable oxygen concentrators offer a real and beneficial alternative to patients. So that's the core essence of a POC. But beyond that, one of the questions we ask ourselves and what patients are telling our customers and telling us as well as part of our research is how can they better manage their condition? How can they reduce the number of visits that they make to their doctors or the number of visits that doctors make to them? How can they try and live life independently? How can they have lesser visits from their service provider? Because by having, if a service provider was to pay too many visits to a patient, the patient would have to plan their lives around these providers. Ultimately, what they're saying to us is they want to have confidence in the equipment, to have the device switch it on and rely on the device, live their lives uninterrupted. And ultimately, have a way to share their day-to-day challenges, or having the benefit of knowing that they have an extra level of support or a network of support from their service providers, from their family members and clinicians who can remotely access and monitor how these devices are being used, or to ensure that the devices are working and delivering the therapy that the patient requires. Next slide, please. The next group within the structure is the clinician. This is the respiratory therapist or the doctor. The paramount objective is to obviously ensure that there is better and constantly improved or improving outcomes for their patients. They want to be able to understand the breath histograms or trends of their patients. But they also want to be able to understand how the patient lives their life. Are they conforming or complying to their prescription? This they do today, and they do this by either going to visit their patients or having the patients come into the clinic to be assessed. And the question here is, how can they be more efficient in delivering this care to their patients? Again, that's where connected technology comes in and gives patients and gives clinicians the ability to remotely, from comfort of their office, assess and evaluate their patients. And by doing this, it would improve their productivity because they can see multiple patients in a day, taking out that travel time to a patient or for the patient back, or even cancel visit, and can deal with many more patients within the time available and within the constraints of their resource. Another benefit is for them to be able to have the data to evaluate a cross-section of patients, to be able to understand and see trends. What are they doing as a clinician that is improving not just the life of a patient, but the lives of patients within their care. Big data will help them understand what's working, what isn't working, what they can do to make the biggest impact in the lives of their patients. And again, the final point here is by increasing their productivity, which I mentioned earlier, it would mean that there would be need for fewer home visits. You can remotely connect to a patient from the home and deliver the care remotely. Next slide, please. So the service provider, as I mentioned earlier, is our primary customer. For us as a manufacturer of portable oxygen concentrators, one of the things that we asked ourselves at the very start of developing the product is, how can we differentiate our offering? There are other concentrator manufacturers out there, companies that have probably a longer heritage or history or reputation of producing these devices, and we're a new player. What can we do to stand out? What can we do to enable home care providers deliver better quality of care, differentiate their own offering to patients, get positive feedback from their patients, which will help them in retendering or help them in acquiring new patients. Positive feedback is good. Again, connected technology can help service providers achieve this. One of the biggest pains is being able to reduce operational costs. As you can imagine, globally, there is continuous budget cuts in the health sector. And providers and healthcare providers and clinicians generally have to find a way to operate smarter within the limited amount of resources that they have. And connected technology can help them do a few things. One is to reduce the amount of emergency call-outs. Because with connected technology, providers can see their devices, they can anticipate where the device is about to go down, they can predict the potential failure and respond to that device or to that patient and deal with it before it actually happens. Again, going back to the positive feedback, because you can imagine, as we are as independents or as lay people, getting a call, for example, from your garage or your car manufacturer advising or informing you of a need to perform a check is the same concept here. There's that assurance that they're able to give their patients. As regards components, the device has different components and key ones at that it's important for them as a provider to have visibility of, to understand the trends of how the components are being used, what's degrading the most, and be able to equip themselves appropriately to react to any issues or stock up with the right parts. With regards to optimizing assets, I guess the point we're trying to make here is to enable providers make the best of devices that they have bought. These devices aren't cheap. What they will be able to do with connected technology or with our platform is to it would enable them see devices that are being used by patients and those that aren't, and we deploy these assets where they're most required. So, for example, let's look at a service provider in the UK as an example. They've got a patient, let's call patient A, let's call him John, and patient B, Mary. John has got a device and doesn't use this device and hasn't used it for several months. Mary is a new patient that requires a portable oxygen concentrator. Without the connected technology or a smart device, what the provider would do is to go and buy a new unit for Mary. But with this visibility, they can see that John doesn't use it, or John doesn't require, or no longer requires it. They can take that device from John and deploy to Mary. Again, it's about optimization, saving them the need to have to go and invest in a new unit when there's one that is not being actively used by John. The final point here is asset recovery, more important for our customers in the US. The idea here is using GPS technology and GSM. They can remotely track and monitor where their devices are anywhere in the world, and it will help them recover lost or stolen assets that otherwise they would have lost forever without the benefit of connected technology. Next slide, please. Finally, for us as a manufacturer, of course, connected technology or the service that it brings to our customers gives us an opportunity for improved revenue, or if you like, an additional revenue line. It helps us differentiate our product. We're not just offering or selling a product and it's bye-bye to the customer. What we're looking to do is to establish long-lasting relationships with this service offering and a subscription-based package that would further establish or help us develop or maintain a closer relationship with our customers. From a product development or engineering standpoint, it would give us the added advantage of having real data in terms of understanding how our devices are behaving, how they are performing, what their limitations are, how good they are. If we have really over-engineered, as an example, we can make those changes looking at real data. With connected technology, we're not second guessing. The data is there, it's real, and we use that to improve our product. It will also help us in future development of our product line. It will also help us understand, again, the key components within each of our product lines, which of them are most durable, what changes we can make to improve our product. One benefit that connected technology gives us is the ability to remotely update firmware to our devices. As a company, we're constantly striving to improve our devices. Changes are inevitable. Mainly those changes are software-based. So it gives us the opportunity to carry out upgrades to all our devices, saving time and money. We don't have or need the devices to come back to our site to upgrade the firmware. With a click of a button, it's done, and all our customers can benefit from an improved change or an improved product without having to withdraw a product from the market and bring it back to us. And ultimately, as part of our offering, it's important for us to ensure and assure that security levels and the data that is being transmitted between the device and the cloud is secure, and the integrity of that data is assured, if you like. Of course, playing or working within the healthcare industry, it's paramount that patient data is safe, and we've taken that into account as part of this process, and connected technology gives us the ability to do that, which I will try and explain a bit further in subsequent slides. Next slide.
Thanks very much, Don. Thanks very much, Donald. And Yeah, so quickly to summarize the value, I mean, we're looking at a medical device here, but for anything, this could be any device which is out in the field, be that in the home environment like Donald's out and about, or indeed in the factory environment, or indeed on a remote site like an oil rig. And there's four main areas of the value that you've just heard from Donald. The first is really in this idea of improving customer experience, getting the data from the connected product to improve the service, support and usability of the product in the field. And we heard from Donald how that would be, but for potentially your products and indeed in your operations, that could be a key consideration. The second thing is in the business itself, to optimize your business processes or indeed the business processes of your customer or supply chain by using the real-time or near real-time data from existing systems to increase efficiency. And we've heard about how the use of data to predict failure would reduce the number of wagon rolls in terms of service, but also in asset utilization and reducing the amount of assets that service provider actually has to bring into play. Those together enable you to differentiate your offering. They increase the pace of product and service innovation. And as well, you've got this sort of whole idea of a service wrapper around your product, be that in its place, be it through rental, or be it actually when you ship the product. And those three together enable you to have this ability, and particularly as a product provider, to drive new revenue streams and unlock those business models to realize the value-added opportunities. These are a lot of big words of just ways of saying it enables you to sell more to a customer because it's got better experience and be able to make them much more sticky. Next slide, please. So the real next question then, so to give you some examples of that, these are examples that are publicly available. We found that a lot of our customers don't want us to talk about what they're up to publicly. And thank you to Donald for allowing him to allow us to do this. But for a medical device manufacturer, one of the key business benefits they were looking for was they were realizing that their field devices needed manual software updates, particularly around security. And they were using their sales professionals to go and perform these updates, diverting their focus. But worse than that, the method was using thumb drives, which themselves are intrinsically insecure in that you're enabling an external device to be plugged in. So they wanted, and they wasted a lot of time doing it. So the business benefit from them of having a connected product was to reduce the duration burden and cost of the software, improve quality and efficiency of device tracking and compliance monitoring. So the business case was originally around the service and deployment of software updates in the field, and it very quickly became about compliance monitoring and making sure that the correct serviceable items were being replaced by their products. But key to them was the fact that they actually recovered the selling productivity time of their team in the field. Next one, please, Actor. This one is in oil and gas, and it relates to what could be deemed as a simple product, which was related to pipe and pipe couplings. But the company pain point was that they were using pipes and they were finding that their rate of failure was higher than expected and tolerable. And failures at the client sites obviously cost up time, etc. And the problem was they had an inability, not only could they not understand the root cause, but they had an inability to predict when their couplings would be in the position to, in an environment that would lead to their failure. So what they did is they put sensors on top of the couplings, measuring such things as wear and also vibration, temperature, and pressure. And they built analytics models using the data from these connected couplings to look at what the asset failure modes were, or indeed start to measure the degradation of their product. And this enabled them to, in the first instance, predict failure so that they could avoid it by doing planned maintenance and offer another service of maintenance around this use case. But also it enabled them to better forecast smarter purchasing of spare parts so that they could deliver, instead of it being an emergency delivery, deliver in normal way and include their margins. But clearly, one of the key insights there was for their was for their product development. Next one is NETAFIM, where basically NETAFIM are a irrigation company. They provide systems that are used for irrigating large areas of the United States. And they really saw it as an opportunity to start to change where they got their business model. So instead of selling just irrigation, they were able to sell irrigation advice. They were able to provide the customer with more ways of managing where their crops were irrigated by providing sensors in the field, but also building an application that then would push water to those places in their field where it was most needed. What they saw as the business benefit of using this approach, and indeed an IoT platform, which I'll come on to later, was that they could rapidly prototype and check with the market by getting something out cost effectively and quickly to the market, enabling the market to respond and give them some idea about where they could, which direction to take this application in, and then do the updates as and when that happened. And it's this closer working with the customer, which also led to improved sales as the customers became more sticky with their sales team. The key thing for them as well is that they were able to roll this legacy, this new digital connected technology out across their legacy portfolio. So not only were they looking at new sales, but also this was additional revenue onto sales that they've already got. So it was immediately a value add and a revenue opportunity for them. Next slide, please, Agatha. So I'm just going to ask Donald now, actually, just to really just take us through what the capabilities does a business need. But before we do that, just really say, look, what we're talking about here, actually, you have to be prepared for the fact that this will impact every facet of your business. So whether it's from operations in terms of how you build the product, so you can actually use the technology on your production line itself in a connected operations play to understand the condition of your assets that are making the product, so you improve quality of your product. Finance team, they're going to have implications because most of this connected products come with a subscription revenue. And if finance have been geared up to selling point of sale, one-time solutions with maybe a service wrap, they won't be used to maybe usage-based billing, and the billing will go something from more of a product company to what something more of a telecommunications company have to deal with packages, etc. So the cost of this extra revenue is a little bit more cost in finance to deal with that subscription billing. Engineering, we've heard from Donald how they're using it to already improve the quality of their product. In sales, we've talked already about the market and lead generation, knowing that someone needs some new consumables for your product is a good trigger to ship them, and indeed having just a standard shipment contract when renewables are due, you ship. And then obviously there's the service opportunity, which Donald touched on as well. But each of those teams have an implication. They will have to change the way they work. But Donald, what was the capabilities that you found as a team to bring this product to market that you needed?
Well, thanks again, John. For us within GCE, it was key to obviously assess where the gaps were, what we needed to do, or resources that were required to help us achieve this program. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're a small company, and at the start of the project, we had a review. And we identified that with IoT, with this connected technology program, it was a new area for us. It was key to understand what sort of legal framework we had to play with and ensure that we were not breaking any rules. So the legal advice we know or we identified as being critical. Again, with the IoT, it's important that the security or the integrity of the data transmitted from the product to the cloud is assured. We didn't have that resource in-house. It's something that we knew that we had to work on or identify somebody to work with. Software, firmware, and hardware. Traditionally, our organization, we are a mechanical engineering company, if you like. We didn't have the skills in-house for software development. And neither did we have the skills at the time for hardware and firmware. And it was key for us to identify pretty early on in the program that these were areas that we definitely needed additional resource to help us move forward. Comms, of course, is a gap. We needed to identify a company that would help us achieve that. Again, I guess the final point that we identified was the finance and ops. Again, it's with the IoT and its associated service. is fundamentally different to what we've been used to. We sell a device before now, of course. We sell a device as a one-off transaction, and we're moving towards a subscription sort of based service, which meant that we had to make changes internally within our IT systems. We had to bring in people to handle the operation side of things in terms of supporting customers who would be buying or subscribing to this service, which, again, we didn't have that resource in-house. So these 7 points, or 7 areas, if you like, were the key points that we focused on to ensure that we had resource, be it internally or externally, to help us move forward with the program.
So just to drill down into one of those areas, and this isn't a security seminar, but webinar, but we just wanted to touch on this as one of the examples. Was obviously security is extremely important. It's the first question that any customer asks me, very long before they ask the question about price. It's about security. Probably what's driving some of that is obviously the press that certain companies that have had issues have received. But in addition is the new regulations, GDPR, and also the enforcement of HIPAA in the United States. People are probably a bit tired of hearing GDPR, so I apologize if you've heard it again on this call, but it's really what is driving for some of the companies this recognition around the importance of protecting data, in addition to brand reputation. Next slide, please, Agatha. And so consequently, one of the areas that this really impacts is that you have to, when you go to a connected product from a standalone product, is that your product is more prone to physical device attack, particularly if it's in the field. And this means someone getting in and understanding and copying the credentials and then getting access to either your IP or your software, and indeed introducing software themselves onto the physical device. There's the option of a network attack, where you can, where someone gets on and can pretend to be your device and spoof either your systems or gain access to the data that's been transmitted. And the risk here is there's multiple entry and exit points in that network that you have to consider when you're looking into how you're going to get the data from your device to the center, and indeed commands from the center back to the device. And then finally, there's a server attack, which is an attack around the database, the server infrastructure itself, but also the actual application, where people can gain access to data and control access to the devices. The potential impact on that is clearly, the important data can be stolen. The issue is you could potentially no longer have control of your devices. So the classic denial of service attacks, where someone takes over your device and uses it to attack someone else's server, as we've seen with in recent cases. Worse still, if that's not bad enough, that taking your service down and having disruption. And then once that's out in the field and you've got it there and it's a remote location potentially, or just you have a large number, that's expensive to fix if you have to go out and fix it. And worse still, there are cases where a device has been what we call bricked, so it's turned into something as useful as just as a brick. And the issue with that as well in all these areas is the element of the company's liability, which is the risk. And this is one of the key reasons why we find companies think very hard before they go into a connected product. But with products such as we use Device Authority, which is and their Keyscaler platform as one of the services there. So there are many ways that we can help secure the product and make sure that is continually secured as it goes out in the market. And the irony is, compare a connected product to a non-connected product. By being connected, you have the chance of winning the arms race with the people, malicious individuals and companies trying to break into your product. So here's an example of device authentication from Device Authority that we use regularly, which is where the device itself creates a key using all the information about itself and its hardware, and the files that are on there to authenticate itself to something called the Keyscaler platform. Once that authentication has happened, then data can be sent, and keys, the actual crypto keys that encrypt the data, is maintained from Keyscaler to the device and can be updated at each individual session if need be. And the consequence of that is that we can encrypt and secure the data from the device right the way to the point when it's held at rest on what we use, the ThingWorx platform. So that's just to give you one quick example that the ways that we think about securing this as one of the key elements. So let's go on to the next slide then, please. So Donald, how did you cope with these capabilities? What was how did you manage to bring in these new capabilities into your business?
Thanks, John. I guess it was pretty clear from following the initial conversations where we had existing resources where we could quickly add resource to block or to bridge that gap. But certainly for some areas we had to go external for our legal advice. We worked with a company in Sweden who had very close or affiliated in the US to give us advice with regards to the legal remit or framework for the US and Europe, ensuring that we conform and drafting all the legal regulatory documents to support the program. Again, security was a key and continues to be a key area of focus for us. And just going back to your point, John, yes, of course, there's cost to go and fix devices when they've been breached, but one thing that is difficult to recover from is your reputation of the company being associated with a data breach. So for us, we identified the Device Authority as a key partner. They are an industry leader in the space of data security and integrity. So we're working with them to assure of our data security. We're working with InVMA, who have helped us to deploy the PTC platform, which provides us the framework or certainly the customer saving and the back-end software program that we're using to deploy our connected offering to our customers. A company in the UK called COCOM helped us design the daughter board with the chips that we have integrated into our device. And firmware, we initially started working with COCOM, but ultimately we now have an in-house software or firmware engineer who's helping us write all the necessary codes to support the program and changes associated with the development. And as I mentioned earlier, with InVMA, who again managing the deployment of the software program, but also acts as a conduit for us with COCOM and PTC. For the comms, we partnered with Stream IoT, who help us with the data package and in delivering the data to and from our device. I understand yesterday Stream has just been acquired by ARM, who are also a chip manufacturer. And then with regards to finance and operations, we have recruited additional resource in-house to help us with the operations, the customer service side of things in terms of training our customers and promoting the product, but also have made relevant changes within our internal systems to manage subscription-based services, which again, I said earlier, was pretty new to us. So that's what we've done as an organization to help us be ready and help us deploy this product offering at GCE. Next slide, please.
Okay, so the key question really for you is, should you use an IoT platform? So one of the things that Donald's covered there is the capabilities, but actually in building the application, you have the connectivity that you have to start with at the bottom. That then runs through a whole layer of communicating to the cloud, the data model, databases, user permissions, and that's even before you start to design the UI and the look and feel, etc. So that can be pretty complex. It's difficult to maintain, which leads to a higher cost of ownership. You've got unproven scalability and security, and really the consequence of that is its longer delivery time frame. And these iterations that we've talked about, it becomes a barrier to innovation because you can't iterate very quickly because you're worrying about all this stuff that's under the bonnet that the customer doesn't care about. So the next slide, please. So really, with an IoT platform, what it enables you to do is a good one will have something around edge software, so it will manage the connectivity between your device and the security on the device, and indeed enable you to deploy services locally. It'll have connections to other clouds, other people's, other third parties, for example, like Microsoft Azure IoT Hub, etc. ThingWorks. Application enablement, so that you can build these applications really quickly. So instead of you having to write code, you can just build an application and focus on the value. And then you need to be able to manage these devices in the field and a full layer of device management. And if you do that, then it means that you're just focusing on what's the value to the customer, and you're not worried about all these other elements. It's still a worry, but at least then you know that you've got an investment that's going into a platform. If you look at what that meant for GCE and the project that we worked with GCE on, you can see that in April 2016 we started, and we had a design workshop talking about what the Clarity platform would look like pre the Clarity name. We connected some of the devices very quickly, and we built the web pages, and using the ThingWorks platform we built, and we were able to test, deploy, prioritize, design, build, test, deploy, and go around that cycle so that we had a prototype. We then went out to some customer meetings, we had a revised design workshop, and we formalized the production hardware design, and that enabled us with a bunch of additional features. We had issues that came along the way, one of which was that the chip that was a new chip was taken off the market within weeks of being launched, which was disappointing, which meant that we had to have a redesign of the hardware. And then we went through, again, a design workshop, and then we went through further hardware design on the back of that. And that's when we went into deep testing with the client before we then went to for approvals, being FCA and CE marking, etc., around that. And then finally the product launch. Now, this is for a highly regulated product launch. Obviously, with other product launches, it'd be different. And what we've got those little lightning strikes to show is that we had fundamental issues as we went through that were curveballs from external parties that we dealt with. The advantage of having the platform, however, meant that we would have many iterations rather than none, and we were able to build on the work that had been done before. Next slide, please, Agatha. So really then, if you're considering your next step, if you're looking at connected products, there are three main, you can think of these in either operational terms, strategic terms, or indeed, fully disruptive terms. We find that people normally start off in the operational, so where they're trying to optimize performance or reduce product and service costs. We occasionally get people that come in and say how they really want to disrupt their market and look at new business models. So in some cases, going from a manufacturer to a true service provider, as they see in some cases the manufacturing getting commoditized. They look at how they can wrap service. So it really depends on where you are in the journey of considering this and where you think you're going to place the bets in terms of connected products. Next slide, please. So if you are thinking of that, we've got some elements that can help you. If you're looking at learning about it, learning about what the market is and whatever, I'd really like to point you to our website and the Insights page, which is well signposted, and you'll get a copy of these slides, so you can click on the link. If you're thinking about experimenting, then we can help you with that in terms of proof of values. We don't do a proof of concept. The concept works. This is all about how in your business you can prove the value. If you're not sure about that, you can think as well about what the implications and the impact are for you overall. And if you're strategizing, then we can help you with a strategy enablement workshop where we look at what the implications will be of this technology on your business and your customers and your supply chain. And if you've started and you really want some help, then we can help you with that as well, of course. So these are 4 places that you can go to. Overall, it's over to you, Agatha.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything, and it's time now for your questions. John, would you like to see whether there are any questions?
Yeah, so if you can just click in the box below there, everybody will do that. Okay. So I've got a question here while we're waiting for the other questions to come in, and Donald, it's for you, which is, really, what was your biggest learning or challenge that you faced when you were going through this project?
I think it was key for us. I guess the challenge was trying to understand and get a product out to the market quickly, and a product that captures the requirement of our customers. And I think one key thing or one key learning, if you like, is work get a product out, design a good enough product out, get it out to the market for real feedback, rather than trying to come up with a solution from the comfort of a desk. So I think initially, to be honest, we did try to do that, but very quickly changed our approach by getting the product out and getting feedback, and using that feedback to make the changes required on the platform. So I think that was the key challenge for us. It was getting the feedback and implementing the change quickly.
And with a customer, are the customers willing to do that, Donald? Do you think to engage in that conversation with you?
Absolutely. I think customers are always keen to understand how suppliers can take away pains that they experience and make their lives easier. And with our offering, with the connected technology and the platform, what we were offering was taking away unnecessary operational cost. And they were certainly key in hearing what we had to say and participate in that process of developing a product that ultimately was for them to use.
That's great, thanks. And how are they reacting now? I mean, how's the product going itself? Are you, how's it going with the product, Donald?
Well, we're pretty pleased, John. We've got loads of orders that we're shipping out for at the moment. The feedback has been great. Our customers have been telling us that our product, compared to some of the other similar platforms out there, is superior by far, and has helped us in winning a considerable amount of business that otherwise we wouldn't have got it, at least not easily, if you like, as a new player in the industry. So it's been great. We're pretty satisfied with what we've done so far in the last couple of months.
I've got a question here. Someone says, are you looking at using this across the GCE group in the other markets other than medical devices?
Yes, we will be. The other business units within our organization have seen the success that we are achieving, and are pretty excited and keen to tap into the IoT program. Some of them have reached out to me already, and so we'll be looking to spread that technology, if you like, and use the platform across multiple business areas. I guess the other thing to bear in mind here, John, is that some of our customers cut across the different products or business areas that we have within GCE. So that's another advantage of having this offering, that we will position ourselves as a one-stop shop for some of our customers.
Thanks very much, Donald. I'm just looking. I haven't got any more questions. Is there any?
I think there's James asking whether they will receive the copy of the presentation later. Yes, James, you received the copy of the slides and the recording from this session. So yeah, do we have everything covered? Do you want to add anything else, John, before we wrap up?
No, I'm good, Donald.
No, I'm good. Nothing from me.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. We'll be having more webinars and events in the future, so please stay tuned. And thank you again, and we'll see you next time.